We're in week 3. We got Coach Prime versus Coach Hue Jackson. We got Jackson State versus Grambling State University. Who's the biggest tiger on the block? Who's leading the pack in this thing here? The million-dollar question is, with both of these teams coming off of wins, Jackson State University winning the Southern Heritage Classic against Tennessee State. And then you have Grambling State, who knocked off Northwestern State University last week, in which they were able to turn them over so many daggone times. Every time you looked up, they put more points on the board. The million-dollar baby is, who going to come out of here with this W this week? Guys, you know Coach going to go ahead and get into it right after this. You know, it's your favorite coach back at it again. 10 toes down, about to tell you how it all went down. This is Tomorrow Leader Sports Network with your host, Coach Walker. If you're new to the channel, please like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can get all upcoming videos. For all my leaders out there, welcome back. Y'all know the drill. Y'all know the routine. If you haven't done so already, please like, comment, and share these videos and tap in a friend or two and tell them to come on in. It's never positive vibes. We're just having a good time talking about HBCU sports. And don't forget, you can follow us on all social media platforms. The links are listed down below in the description. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and tap on in this thing and get straight to it, because the million-dollar question is, with Grambling coming off of that big win last week against Northwestern State University, how is that going to roll into this week, week 3 that is, to go up against foe Jackson State? Because you got to remember one thing, the last time, Jackson State still has on their mind the time that Grambling State was supposed to come to Jackson and play them. I believe it might have been 2010, something like that, for their homecoming. And Grambling State said, we ain't playing that game. They backed out, decided they wouldn't go play. And you know what? Jackson State was able to get a game going on, an inter-squad game, that is, between themselves for homecoming, in which they still had like 40-something thousand fans show up in the stands. So you already know this thing's going to be packed from wall to wall. You got Grambling State fans over here. You got Jackson State fans over here. There's been a little chatter going on here and there. You know, some folks, they're kind of quiet. They're trying to measure things out to see exactly, which way do I want to go with this thing? Do I think Grambling State has the goods to go ahead and knock Jackson State off right now? Or is Jackson State just going to come out there and just be as dominant as ever? Well, we already know there's one person in particular that Prime and Coach Hue Jackson, they know in common, and that's none other than Mr. Maurice Washington. You already know Maurice Washington played for Coach Prime. I believe that it was at briefly at Trinity Charter in Texas while he was coaching high school football. Him and Shador played together back then. And you know that young man was a load toting that ball back in high school. And guess what? It ain't changed. It ain't changed at all. This young man is still getting to it. He still ain't. You give him a crease, he out of there. And not to mention, he got none other than give me one more chance. That's right, Mr. Chance Williams in the backfield with him as well over there at Grambling State University. That's going to be looking to come out there and submit his name in this game. Let Jackson State know, hey, listen, y'all ain't going to stop our running game. It just ain't going to happen. But I'll tell you this, they got another young man that, listen, when I say the Grambling State Tigers running back room is thick, this next young man coming in there, Mr. Floyd Chalk, he going to come out there, he going to give you that business too, let you know, hey, listen, either which way you want it. How do you want it? You know what I'm saying? Like Tupac said, tell me how do you want it? They're going to give it to you just like that. They're going to come out there, they're going to bust your head up and let you know, hey, look, y'all going to have to stop this thing. But you know what? I understand exactly where Hue Jackson is coming from. Excuse me, Coach Hue Jackson. I apologize, Coach, when I say Hue Jackson. Coach Hue Jackson, he's looking to come out there and definitely use those running backs to wear down that Jackson State defense. And we already know that Jackson State defense is potent because guess what? They have only allowed 3 points to be scored against that defense. They allow an average of 3 points to be scored on that defense all season long. That's right. FAMU, 3 points. Tennessee State, 3 points. I guess they got Steph Curry over there shooting 3 balls or something in order for them to just get on the board. You know, he just go ahead, chalk one from the, from the 50-yard line to see if it's going to drop, and there's money in the bank just for them to get 3 points on the board for them not to look crazy. So you try to figure out, okay, which way is this thing going to go? Because you already know Coach Hue Jackson, he got a quarterback back there too. Oh yeah, he got a young man that can throw that thing a ton. We're going to get to him in a second. We already know that Jackson State is going to be prepared on the defensive side of the ball, making sure that they block up those running lanes, keeping Maurice Washington and Mr. Chalk as well as Mr. Chance from getting busy out there on their field, just running rampant on them up and down the field all game long. You might want to be aware about is the fact that Coach Hue Jackson definitely loves to run those flare routes throwing the ball out the backfield, as well as getting those running backs on the edge for them to go ahead and spread their defense out and rip and run their thing up and down the field. So everybody's going to have to be conscious of what's going on out there in this game, or it's going to be tough sledding for somebody. But you know, one thing I want to tell you is this. We know that if Grambling State if Grambling State is able to get out there on them edges and extend plays with getting those additional yards here and there to keep them chains moving, hey, Jackson State's going to figure out a way to make sure that they're able to stop that. Defensively, Grambling will be looking to bring pressure on QB1 Shedeur Sanders and their offensive line, making sure that they're disrupting their offensive line, preventing QB1 Shedeur Sanders from getting comfortable in the pocket, throwing that ball up and down the field. Now, I tell you this, QB1, you need to make sure that your ball placement is on point, because number 6, Estes for Grambling State University, he can trail a receiver running a route and pick up that extra yard or so once that ball come in, wherever it's placed, and poke that ball out, keeping that receiver from catching that pass. So you want to make sure you're leading those receivers far enough for the receiver to run up underneath that ball, making Estes really get out there and have to come. This young man has his skill set down where he's able to do some things out there on the field. So definitely he's going to be looking to try to cover those Jackson State wide receivers, preventing them from getting passes. So we definitely going to look forward to that. And not only that, number 23, Donald Lee, he don't have a problem coming up making the tackle, especially when those Jackson State running backs want to get out there and shake and bake and do their thing. If they got a bunch of free field to run just wild and rapid on, coming up to lay that boom on them, letting them know what time it is. And not only that, you can't forget about number 99, Xavier Kusar, who will bring pressure against the Jackson State offensive lineman, trying to make sure that they get QB1 off his spot, make him a little uncomfortable back there in that pocket for him to throw them passes down the field. Now, one thing for certain is this. Jackson State is going to be looking to run the game, and they understand that the running game will be essential, especially having J.D. Martin and Savion Wilkinson out there running that ball. Now, the receivers, Hooks, as well as Coleman, Daniels, would definitely need to make sure that they get out there and do the things that they need to do, as well as those other tight ends that's going to be in the game. Got to make sure y'all secure those blocks, keeping those defensive ends and those outside linebackers from creeping up, trying to disrupt plays that may be running to your side. If not, Grambling's going to try to sit on this thing all daggone day long and do whatever it is that they can to get that ball back in their possession to keep putting points on the board. Now, one thing that kind of scares me about the Grambling State defense is this. They leave the middle of the field open very often, and them crossing routes on their air raid is going to be dangerous, especially with one of those Jackson State players catch that ball in stride and take that bad boy to the house. I'm telling you now, it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. When it comes down to Jackson State defense as well as their offense, we have to sit back and wait and see exactly who's going to be the starting 11. Now, I know I named off some people early on, especially on the offensive side of the ball, the running backs as well as the receivers, but you already know how Coach Prime thinking is. He'll go ahead and change that up. He say, hey, I'm going to scrap that. I'm going to go with a whole different package that we're going to put out there on the field, and we're going to give them something different that they're going to look at and try to figure that out from there before we go ahead and start putting those integral pieces in there so we can go ahead and do what we need to do. One thing I'll say is this. On the defensive side of the ball for both teams, they're going to have to make sure that they're disciplined in this game. Sometimes the defensive backs on both sides, I'm not going to say both, sometimes defensive backs, they may want to try to gamble on a play. I've seen it a few times with Grambling where they had defensive backs try to gamble and they got burnt on it. This is the thing. Grambling likes to jump routes from time to time, depending upon who the receiver is. So those receivers got to make sure that, you know, themselves as well as QB1 are on the same page. So when that ball is let go out of his hand, that ball is going to where they're going to be. I saw a couple of times in the game last week against Tennessee State, QB1 was throwing balls to where he thought the receiver was going to be, and they weren't there. Had Tennessee State been able to keep a receiver, keep a defensive back up, you know, on that route, them passes could have been pick sixes going to the house. Matter of fact, Tennessee State probably would have still been running past their school onto Middle Tennessee State, where they're ready to go play this upcoming weekend. That's how much running they would have been doing right now had they caught those daggone passes that QB1 had just thrown out there into the flats like that. But again, this would definitely be a hard-fought game in the trenches. And I'm going to tell you why I say this. The reason why I say this is because whoever can establish the offensive line, preventing the other team's defense from getting in their backfield, disrupting plays, is going to be the team that's going to put a lot of points on the board. Now, we've already seen Jackson State have a 59-point game, and they had a 16-point game. Now, I'm going to say something about that 16-point game that's going to have some of you sitting back like, Coach, you tripping. Listen, A lot of the wounds that Jackson State inflicted upon themselves last week was self-inflicted. A lot of the wounds that Jackson State had last week in that game in the Southern Heritage Classic was self-inflicted wounds. Now, right now, Grambling State defense in the past 2 games that they played in, they've allowed 39.5 points per game. So we're going to see exactly how everything's going to size up between these 2 teams. And like I stated before, Jackson State has only allowed 3 points in each game that they've played thus far this season. So I'm going to tell you this. You guys leave below your comments on, leave below your score predictions for this game. Let me know who you think going to win this game and what's the score. Let's see what you got. But guys, that's all Coach got for you right now. He's going to go ahead and get up out of here. But until next time, remember, be the one and lead.